My life took a wild turn when my neighbor, a woman I'll call Evelyn Harper, decided my chickens and fish farm were the end of the world. Picture this. I'm just a guy trying to live quietly on my 40-acre riverside homestead in Oregon, a place my grandfather bought back in 1950 with his GI Bill money. After 15 years chasing bad guys as a deputy sheriff, I'd built a peaceful Havana sustainable farm where my fish ponds fertilized my vegetable crops, and my 20 chickens, with names like Daisy Feathers and Clover, clucked happily alongside my 8 goats. It was my sanctuary after a brutal divorce in 2023, a place to heal and start fresh. But Evelyn, my oh-so-charming neighbor, had other plans. She called the cops, claiming my farm was poisoning the community's water supply. What started as a bizarre accusation from a nosy neighbor spiraled into a calculated, high-stakes battle that would have made a blockbuster thriller. Buckle up, because this story is a roller coaster, and it's got twists you won't see coming. It all began on a crisp April morning in 2024. I was out at sunrise, tossing feed to Daisy and the crew, checking the fish ponds to make sure everything was running smoothly. The air was fresh, the river sparkled, and life felt good. Then I saw her Evelyn Harper, striding across my property like she owned it, decked out in a sharp business suit, clipboard in hand, radiating authority. I'm a trusting guy, probably too trusting, a flaw from years of dealing with liars in law enforcement. So when she introduced herself as a water quality specialist, hired by the county, I bought it. She had official-looking papers, a confident tone, and even knew my background. "Deputy Carter," she said, "I respect your service, but we've had reports of water contamination from your farm. I need to inspect your setup." She threw around terms like hydrology expert and advanced environmental degree, so often it felt rehearsed, but I let her in. I showed her my system, how the fish waste naturally fertilized my crops, how everything was contained and sustainable. She nodded, took notes, and seemed impressed. Then her tone shifted. Suddenly, she was rattling off violations that made no sense. Me chickens were causing runoff contamination. My ponds needed permits I'd never heard of. My goats were a public health risk. When I asked to see the regulations she was citing, she got cagey. Then, right there on my property, she pulled out her phone and called 911, staring me down like a villain in a bad movie. "I'm reporting environmental contamination," she said into the phone. "This man's farm is endangering our drinking water. Send someone now." I stood there, dumbfounded, holding a bag of chicken feed. "Did you just call the cops on me for feeding my chickens?" I asked, half laughing, half stunned. She hung up, flashed a smile that could have chilled a polar bear, and said, "Deputy Carter, you're not in law enforcement anymore. You're just a citizen who needs to follow the rules. Cease all farming operations within 30 days, or face $500 daily fines." Before I could respond, Daisy Feathers, my feistiest chicken, waddled over and started pecking at Evelyn's clipboard like it was her personal mission. Evelyn freaked out, shrieking contaminated poultry, as if Daisy was a biohazard. She stumbled backward, nearly fell into a pond, and her precious papers went flying into the mud. Daisy, bless her, kept pecking like a tiny avenger. I scooped her up, laughing. "Good job, girl," I whispered. "You just saved me from signing something stupid." Evelyn grabbed what papers she could and bolted not to a county vehicle, but to the biggest mansion in our rural community, a sprawling 9,000-square-foot monstrosity with a gated driveway. That was my first clue something was seriously off. I gathered the muddy papers Daisy had liberated. They were a mess, but what I could read screamed fake. The county seal looked like it was printed at a copy shop, and the letterhead had typos no government document would ever have. I'd seen enough forged paperwork in my career to know this was amateur hour, but what bothered me more was that Evelyn knew I was ex-law enforcement. This wasn't random, she targeted me. My gut, honed by years of chasing criminals, told me this was bigger than a neighbor with a grudge. The next morning, I knew something was wrong before I even stepped outside. My main fish pond was down 6 inches overnight, impossible for a system designed to lose almost no water. These fish weren't just livestock, they were like family. I'd raised them from fingerlings, learned their quirks, and built a system that took years to perfect. By day 3, I'd lost 4 fish, their lifeless bodies floating in the shrinking pond. It gutted me. I checked every pipe, every valve, nothing explained the loss. Desperate, I launched my drone, something I used to monitor property lines. What I saw made my blood run cold. A hidden channel, professionally dug, was siphoning water from my natural spring. The trail led straight to a massive concrete pad behind Evelyn's mansion, complete with industrial pumps and storage tanks. This wasn't a garden hose situation, this was organized water theft. I showed the footage to my neighbor, Old Man Jenkins, who'd been farming here for 50 years. "No wonder my well dried up last month," he said, shaking his head. "Never happened, not even in the 2010 drought." The pieces were falling into place. I confronted Evelyn at her mansion, keeping my tone friendly. "Hey, I've got water flow issues. Seen anything weird with your systems?" Her response was pure "I see no neighborly concern," just a curt, "I'm running private consulting work. It's none of your business." That night, I dug into Evelyn Harper. Turns out, her real name was Evelyn Brooks, and she had a rap sheet of property disputes across 3 counties, always targeting land near water sources. Her pattern was clear: pose as an environmental authority, pressure owners with fake violations, and force them to sell cheap. In 2 cases, those properties became bottled water operations. Her husband, Nathan, owned a water bottling company desperate for new sources amid Oregon's worst drought in decades. My spring was their golden ticket. As my pond levels dropped and my crops wilted, Evelyn escalated. She formed a fake HOA for our rural community, something we'd never had complete, with official-looking notices demanding a mandatory meeting. The letterhead was fancy, but I spotted the same fake seal from her earlier papers. Curiosity got the better of me, so I went, with Daisy Feathers tagging along after escaping her coop. The community center was packed with 30 confused neighbors. Evelyn, now in a power suit, had charts, graphs, and a slideshow straight out of a corporate playbook. She declared herself interim HOA president and listed violations, mostly aimed at my farm. Daisy, sensing the nonsense, clucked loudly at every absurd claim, earning laughs from the crowd. When Evelyn said my chickens were a health hazard, Daisy let out a squawk so indignant the room erupted. Then Margaret, a retired librarian with a knack for cutting through bullshit, stood up. "Evelyn, I've lived here 35 years. We've never had an HOA. Who elected you?" She'd been to the county courthouse and found no record of an HOA. Worse, Evelyn's fees were going straight to her personal account, and her letterhead misused the county seal, a federal crime. The room turned on her. A local mechanic, who'd been promised construction contracts for supporting her, demanded answers. Then Sarah, a real county environmental inspector, walked in. She'd heard about the issues and inspected my farm on the spot, calling it a model for sustainability. Evelyn's fake water tests and doctored photos crumbled under Sarah's scrutiny. The meeting collapsed, neighbors apologizing to me as Evelyn stormed out, muttering about legal channels. But Evelyn wasn't done. She hit me with a certified letter from a law firm demanding I stop illegal water usage or face a $50,000 lawsuit, backed by a forged 1890 deed granting her family exclusive water rights. It was a masterpiece, aged paper, wax seal, old-timey language, but my law enforcement training kicked in. Under UV light at the courthouse, the paper was too modern, the ink too new, and the legal terms didn't exist until the 1970s. There was no record of the deed anywhere. Meanwhile, Evelyn harassed me daily, filming my every move, scaring off customers, posting fake, no trespassing signs, and filing endless county complaints. She even sent $500 daily fine notices for HOA violations, despite the HOA being fake. The pressure was crushing. I lay awake nights, wondering if I should just sell and walk away. My fish were dying, my crops failing, and the legal fees were piling up. Then my old partner, Mike, called. "Tom, this is a known scam. She's hit 10 other towns with the same playbook: fake environmental claims, legal threats, forced sales. Don't give up." He connected me with a task force tracking similar frauds. I started treating this like a criminal case, documenting everything: photos, timestamps, witness statements. I found Nathan's company faced a deadline to secure new water sources or lose its license. Evelyn's consulting was a front to steal my spring. Her fake documents, threatening letters, and hired inspectors were building a case against her. Things came to a head one morning when 3 SUVs with fake county markings rolled up. Men in knockoff uniforms demanded I evacuate in 20 minutes or face arrest for environmental violations. Their badges were wrong, their plates were rental tags, and they dodged basic questions. Evelyn stood by, smirking, as a news crew she'd tipped off filmed her triumph. But when Sarah arrived in her real county vehicle, the imposters panicked. I stepped forward, phone recording. "Gentlemen, I'm Deputy Sheriff Thomas Carter. Mind if I verify your credentials?" I flashed my badge, the crowd gasped, and the news cameras caught it all. "You're under arrest for impersonating county officials," I said, cuffing the lead guy as Sarah secured the others. Evelyn's meltdown was legendary, screaming about conspiracies as neighbors cheered and Daisy strutted like she'd planned it all. The fallout was massive. Evelyn, real name Evelyn Brooks, got 2 years in jail for fraud, impersonation, and running an illegal organization. Her restitution order of $400,000 covered me and other victims across 3 counties. Her mansion revealed maps targeting water sources nationwide, forged documents for 20 properties, and ties to organized crime. Nathan's company collapsed, costing jobs but exposing a web of corruption. My farm recovered, and my relationship with Sarah Blum got engaged by my spring in 2025. We turned my farm into a regional model for sustainable agriculture, hosting workshops and a water festival that draws thousands. Our community formed a real HOA, led by Margaret, to protect our rights. The media frenzy made me an accidental advocate, helping other farmers fight similar scams. Standing by my pond today, watching my fish thrive, I'm grateful. Evelyn tried to ruin me, but she sparked something bigger, a community that fights for each other, a love built on shared values, and a mission to protect rural livelihoods. Sometimes, the best revenge is building something so good it makes the bad guys look small. What's the shadiest thing a neighbor's done to you? Would you have fought Evelyn's scheme or sold out? And how far do you think people like her will go for greed? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe for more wild stories of justice served.